Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Miriam Rachel is a tarot reader and astrologer renowned for her no-nonsense approach and keen insights into a real-life issues. Known as the Queen of Swords, she stands out for her straightforward and honest perspective, cutting through the fluff of toxic spirituality and positivity. Miriam hosts the Tarot Table podcast, where she discusses spirituality raw topics, offering a refreshing alternative to the typical woo-woo narratives. Passionate about penguins, her spirit animal, Miriam has created a unique penguin tarot deck, symbolizing resilience and community. This deck embodies her journey of overcoming challenges and determination and innovation. Welcome to the podcast and congratulations on your new book here. It's Overcoming Echoism with Tarot, using tarot for boundary setting and stopping people pleasing. So nice to
Thank
have you on my show.
thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, if we can just go ahead and start off by you sharing your personal experience with people pleasing and what was the catalyst that led you to seek change?
Okay, so here's the thing. When I was young, in my youth, I was one of those sensitive, ugly ducklings, and I was scapegoated, I was bullied, and I craved and just wanted to fit in. I craved acceptance. So that's what caused me to become a people pleaser. But we're not talking about just any kind of people pleaser. We're talking about pathological people pleasing, which is known as echoism. So echoism is not a medical term. The best way I can describe it is when you look at the scale between with narcissism, you got at the high end of the scale, you got pathological narcissism, and then at the opposite end, you've got echoism, right? So with pathological narcissism, you only care about yourself and you don't give a crap about anyone else, right? Now with echoism, it's the opposite. You don't care about yourself, you care about everyone else too much. So, what's the solution to find a happy medium? Okay, but here's the thing. When you are so much craving approval from others, you're going to forget about your needs. You're not going to have boundaries. You're not even going to honor your needs. You want to actually stay out of the spotlight. Whatever someone needs, you're there, regardless of what you're going to sacrifice. And that's what egoism is. And it is very dangerous and it's very common. Now, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor. I was inspired by Dr. Craig Malkin's work. He talks about echoism, and that's when I discovered it. I'm like, oh my goodness, after reading his material, I'm just, wow, that's me. That's how I was, or that's how I was. So anyway, um, I just lost a lot of opportunities because of the people pleasing. Just, yeah, I am grieving for a lot of that now. But what's done is done, and I can't, we're all going to have regrets, right? And that is one that I have major. But what was my catalyst? Well, I have two kids. One has complex special needs. I did everything I could to help him, but it was getting to a point where it was getting dangerous. I'll just say dangerous for me, my health. I've always struggled with my weight. But at that time I was 300 pounds. I've never been so heavy in my life. That was horrible. That was because I ate to numb myself. And at the same time, I was so depressed. I was almost catatonic. And it was a life or death situation. He wasn't thriving at home. It was just a terrible situation. So, what was I going to do? Take care of him when I really couldn't, just to please society, because society expects parents to take care of these kids for the rest of their lives? Or get him the proper help he needs and get me the proper help that I needed? Well, I chose the latter. And that was it was a grueling process, a very, very grueling process, but it was the best thing that happened for everybody. And this was in 2017. So it's been over 6 years now, and he's doing better. He's doing better than he was at home. I'll just say that. So, and I obviously did a lot of recovery. I was um, going in for therapy and all that. And I'm not 300 pounds anymore. I'm still overweight, but not anything like that. But here's the thing. It's not like I woke up the next day and said, wow, I'm not an echoist anymore. Mm-mm-mm. It was shedding over time. Over time, I found myself saying no more often. I found myself setting boundaries. It was just happening. And another thing that I found myself doing was asking for help. Because when you're an echoist, you're not going to ask for help. You don't want to be a burden to anyone, right? So it was just something that happened over time. It was just something that happened naturally. So as far as tarot goes, I've been a tarot reader for over 15 years, on and off. There were times when I couldn't do it because of my depression and all that. But I am getting into the thick of it now, and there are many, many tarot spreads for anything that isn't so quote unquote woo woo. There's a lot of practical stuff. You can use tarot for creativity, you can use tarot for problem solving. So there are also spreads for self reflection, and there are spreads that can help you understand why you don't set boundaries. And I put them in my book. So I talk about my experience with echoism. I talk about how each of these 78 cards in the deck can represent any aspect of people pleasing. And then I talk about some spreads you can practice.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Um, Ironically, 2017 is the time that I started my recovery from
Mm,
alcoholism. And I also was a people pleaser. And I never actually heard the term echoism. I've
mm.
definitely heard the term narcissism.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We hear
Yeah.
that all the time, but yes, we have to go to the end of this other side of the spectrum here and say, hey, there are people who are just wanting to make sure everybody else is happy around them. And it's
Hmm.
hard to take care of other people when you're not taking care of yourself. You come
No,
first.
that's
You
right.
come
You do.
first. And you
You
look
do.
wonderful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I'm still on my weight loss. I've yo-yoed here and there, but not anymore.
We
I'm done with
all
that.
yo-yo. I've yo-yo so many times. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. But you know what? Yeah. But this is the thing, echoism. See, that's funny because every time I've talked to people about it, they're like, I've never heard of that term, unless they are in the field where, mental health field and all that. So it's funny because I've been introducing that word to a lot of people. And, I want to reference Dr. Craig Malkin because he's the one that introduced it to me pretty much, right? I've interacted with him on X before, so he's very nice, very good. He's very, very smart, and I highly recommend a lot of his material. And yeah, so that's just the way it is. Echoism is the opposite of narcissism, and the best thing you can do is to find middle ground, because there were times, I will admit, there were times when I got a little too selfish. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this at all. But here's the thing, you got to also dial back a bit and choose your battles, make compromises as long as your boundaries are not being crossed. Choose your battles, because some are just not worth picking. I mean, just some are just not worth. Just some are not worth it. So that can be a little hard too, because when you are focusing on your needs, when you're focusing on your boundaries, you may get a little bit selfish, but you'll realize, okay, if this is not crossing my boundaries, if this isn't really affecting me in a terrible way, sometimes you just got to give. And that's the way you see it. So it's a balance, right? It's a balance.
Yeah, it does take time. It's a practice, you know?
Hmm.
It is a
Yeah.
practice for sure. And I used to be a yes, ma'am, and now I actually say no, I cannot do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to. And so I started practicing saying no, no, even to myself. Like when my mind is telling me, oh, do this, do this, do this, do this, like all these tasks in my
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
No, I tell
Yes.
myself no. Just prioritize what's important at the time. But yeah, can you share a specific instance where tarot reading provided you with clarity or guidance in dealing with people-pleasing tendencies?
Yeah, so here's the thing. There are some spreads. First of all, you can just do even a one card pool. You can do a one card pool to do some self reflection. Say, for instance, if you are struggling because a friend of yours asked you to go to a party and you don't really want to go, but you're not sure why. You don't know why. So, you know what you do? Do some reflection. Just take a card. Say, for instance, you pull the Nine of Swords. Okay, you're anxious. Why are you anxious? What are you scared of? And then it's time to start reflecting. Ah, all right. Are you afraid that you're going to upset them if you say no? And you can even say, what will happen if I do say no? I'm not able to do it. You pull another card, you get the Four of Wands. Hooray! Just throwing it out there. So that is a really good simple example of how you can use tarot to do some self-reflection, especially if you are struggling with, ooh, I don't really want to do this, but they really want me to, and I know I should be setting a boundary. Well, why can't you set a boundary? What's upsetting you, right?
Yeah. And for
Hmm.
the listeners who don't know much about tarot, can you explain what the tarot cards are and how people use them? Besides, I
Okay.
mean, yours is a special, specific kind, but in
Oh,
general, yeah, yours is
oh
probably the
well,
best kind to
it's
use. Tarot
thank
cards, I'm
you.
not sure.
Rider Waite is actually the deck that, mine is off of, and that, so tarot is a tool. It's a tool. It was a tool that was used centuries ago. Now, it didn't start off as a metaphysical divination tool. In the 15th century, it started off as a game in Italy and France, and it just became a divination tool in, I believe, the 17th century or 18th century. In France it started, and then it just started to snowball and the West went on to it. So that's how it's been used. It's been used for divination, but it also can be used for a lot of other things, such as psychology, creativity, and self-reflection, as I said, decision making, all that. But that really wasn't discovered until, I'd say, recently. Recently, over the last probably 20 years or so, because everybody else thought that tarot was just a tool to do psychic readings. And the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of misrepresentation of tarot, because what you see in the movies and stuff, so it's not accurate what you see. And then this is why, unfortunately, it's been stigmatized as being a tool that is used for evil. And it's not. It is not. It's just cardboard. It's just 78 pieces of cardboard. Beautiful cardboard, but 78 pieces of cardboard. That's all it is. And you could use it for divination, you could use it for self reflection, anything. That's the thing. As long as you use it for good, you're good. And I'm happy to see that there are other groups that would have shunned tarot, such as many Christians, and other Jewish, uh, you know, um, those who are part of that are more religious. I'm happy to see that they're embracing it, not for divination, but for self-reflection and for practical uses. So that's actually nice to see, because it shows that the stigma is starting to soften a bit, and there's more awareness that tarot can be used for so many other things, not just divination.
That is neat. Yeah, because I do see it in movies and it's all like evil stuff. Oh,
Mm,
death or whatever. This
mm,
is like, wait a minute. Because I know a lot of people who actually use tarot cards and they use it, their intention's different. I guess it depends on the intention you have
yeah.
behind it. And when even my mentor for business coaching, she pulls out a card every day and
Hmm.
reflects on it. So I totally see
Yeah.
what you're saying about that. And I was always fascinated by the cards. So I'm like, these are pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, death. Okay. I mean, I remember back in, now death is, it rarely means physical death. And
Right.
the only time it really does is when you're asking about someone who's terminal, ready to pass. And if that card comes up, then it means it. But other than that, it means transformation. It can mean an ending, right?
Mhm.
And I just remember. back, oh my goodness, this was in the 90s. Do you remember that soap, One Life to Live? Do you remember that
Yes.
soap?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember Luna Moody. Luna Moody, that was her name. She was a tarot reader, and I remember her pulling the death card, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna die." So, examples like that didn't exactly help, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So, and I mean, this is the thing. There's a lot of misunderstanding about. I've written a lot of articles about death. I've written a lot of literature about death, and really, and others have written it. So really, it does not mean, it rarely means physical death. It means transformation. It can mean endings. I don't know if this was a true story or not, but I do remember hearing about this 13-year-old girl that was walking home from school on the sidewalk, and she just suddenly notices the death tarot card. So, of course, she got scared. Oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Well, when she got home, she found out she was a woman for the first time. She
Wow.
started menstruating. So, that in itself is death. Having a baby is death. Getting married is death, right?
Yeah, you're dying to your old self. Something new is coming.
That's
So
right.
that represents death. And they always, yeah, yeah, totally. I get it now because it's like, why is everyone associate death to like you're going to die? No.
Mhm.
Like an
Mhm.
example for myself is like the old alcoholic Gina. If someone then pulled my card and says death on there, that means that's a good thing. And like I'm
Yep.
excited because that means transformation for me.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a good, see, that's the thing. That can be a good thing. Sometimes it's a good card to get. Say, oh, good, good. Some of these negative, seemingly negative cards that come up can actually have some positive meanings. For instance, everyone's also scared of the tower. Well, okay, you get shaken up when you pull it. I do too. But the tower can also mean revelation. It doesn't necessarily mean that some shocking thing is going to destroy you. Okay, it doesn't, but you may end up with a major revelation that could change things. A sudden revelation. Hmm.
Wow. And also people are scared of the devil card too.
Oh yes, devil is all about materialism, attachments, obsessions. So that actually can represent binge eating, alcoholism, and all that. It can. But there is a positive aspect to the devil too. It can mean commitment. It can also mean ambition because it is associated with money. Capricorn is associated with the devil card. So there it is. So if you want to look at it in a positive way, it means ambition and commitment.
Right. Now, any
Hmm.
specific cards for specifically for people pleasing and healthy boundaries? I know you pulled out, you said one. Any other ones?
Oh, okay. Did I say the Queen of, did you, yeah, you said the Queen of Swords. Well, the Queen of Swords is all about boundary setting, definitely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. The Queen of Swords is all about boundary setting. Definitely, for sure, absolutely. I would say the Tower is a good one, especially when somebody does not expect you to be the one with boundaries and suddenly you set boundaries. That shocks them, right?
Mm.
That's a
Yeah,
way
yeah.
to look at it. That's a way to look at it. And the Hermit is also a good one too, because that is a card that represents self-reflection and solitude. So that can get you thinking, "Hmm, okay, are my boundaries too weak?" Right? Because what happens is when the Hermit comes up, there's a reason that they're thinking, they're pulling back and having to reflect. So I think that can be related to that, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think so. I
Yeah.
absolutely think so. Hmm.
And I was gonna ask, like, is because I don't know much about like what the or not even cup of wands. I don't even is
Oh,
there like does the box of the card does it come with like what each card represents so you know?
so well, here's the thing. Well, not every card, not every deck does, but a lot of decks come with a guidebook.
Okay.
So it explains to you what the meanings are, but the thing is, you don't want to memorize the guidebook. You do need to know what the cards mean, but I encourage people to really get to know the cards because they will develop their own meanings. You have to know the basic meanings, yes, but at the same time, it's important to know the symbolism. It's important to really connect with the cards in an intimate way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what that's really what you do. You don't no don't start memorizing the guidebook. Just get to know what the cards meaning, but practice with them. Do some like easy 3 card readings, right?
Right. Now you also are a contributor to the Medium,
Mm,
um, to Medium actually, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
Oh
so
yeah.
you write those are where most of your articles are?
Yeah, I write on Medium. I've got my own publication on there called Tarot Talk.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's getting bigger now. I'm hoping to get 500 followers sometime this year. It's
Why
it's a it's a slow growing publication, but I'm getting more interest with contributors and it's pretty cool. So I write a lot about tarot, and you know what, there's a lot of contributors. They're great. They put a lot of readings, and they put a lot of, I mean, I don't put readings so much. I do a little bit on there, but I do daily readings on actually my Substack instead. So I may change things a bit. I don't know. I will have to think about what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, and then your podcast show. Let's talk
Hmm.
about that. Do you bring guests on and talk about tarot, or because I know you're so what is woo woo, by the way? What is woo woo?
It's like new age. It's new age stuff. It's new age stuff. Just so woo, like out there. No practicality, and that's really what real raw spirituality is. Not woo woo. Okay. So, yeah. So now the thing is, I'm starting to bring guests. I am actually booked up until, well, I mean, I don't have anything releasing until April now because I'm just so it was solo since December. December 1st was my pilot,
Oh,
right?
nice.
And it's been solo. So the guests that I bring, I have a gimmick. They're not all about tarot, no, but I do have a gimmick. I have every guest that I bring on, I compare them to a tarot card. I introduce them with that has to do with the tarot card that they're associated with, and then we just start to give them the spotlight.
Oh, neat. Yeah. So it must be so much fun.
Hmm. Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. It's great. So that's on Substack, and it's syndicated on various platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. Now, what advice would you go ahead and give someone who's just beginning to use tarot as a tool to address, like even their own people-pleasing habits?
Hmm. So I would just say just start slow. I also want to make it clear that tarot is not therapy. Okay. I mean, not in the medical sense. It's not a replacement. It's a great addition, but it's not a replacement. So I believe if somebody's going through some real mental health stuff, talk to a licensed or a psychotherapist anyway, but also use tarot as an addition to that to do some self-exploring. So start slow, make sure you're getting the right help as well, because tarot is not there to diagnose you. It can't. And like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, and I'm in no way in any way to tell you otherwise, right? So that's really what I recommend. So use tarot to do some self-exploring, but do it slow. Start with 1 card a day. Just start with 1 card a day and do some self-reflecting. Now, the thing is, you may not want to start in the morning, because if you pull, say, the tower in the morning, you're going to say, oh my God, I got to wait for the other shoe to drop. No, no. I think the best thing to do is reflect on your day and pull a card at night and see see what resonates. See what resonates, and how, like, what did you do during the day that was relevant to the card, kind of thing. And that's how you start to self-reflect. So I do recommend, if you're going to start doing tarot pulls, to start in the evening, not the morning, unless you can separate yourself from the worry about, oh my God, if I get the 10 of swords or something, oh no, what's going to happen, what's going to end. No, it doesn't. I mean, sometimes weird things do happen, but other times no, because I pulled the sun in the morning and I've had crap happening to me. Okay. So
You've been burned.
yeah, literally. Well, there's a dark side to the sun. That's a whole other, you
Oh
know.
yeah, right. I
Yeah.
think I've heard about those.
Yeah. Yeah. The most positive card in the deck actually has a dark side too.
Yeah.
I did a podcast episode recently about the sun and talked about the dark side. So, yeah.
Yeah. And as far as your relationship with yourself, has it changed at all since you started using tarot to help
Yeah,
you with
I
boundary
uh,
setting?
I definitely know more. I know myself more and I respect myself more because I know what's good for me and what's not good for me. And I'm not going to put up with anything that I know is not good for me. But I also have to know if I don't like something that I'm asked to do, but at the same time, is it really going against my boundary? If it's not, eh, let's see what they can do for me. Make a compromise kind of thing. So that's where, as I said before, it gets a little tricky and I still have to work around that. So,
Yes. And do you still have the same friends too?
yeah.
Or are they like, respecting you a little bit more with your
Oh, yeah.
boundaries and
Yeah.
just okay,
Well,
good.
yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm very picky with who I hang out with. I really am.
Good.
I don't really relate to many people. I've got a few close friends that I see and they're all right. They're fine. But anyone who is superficial, anyone who's not gonna respect me, just stay away. Mm.
Yes, because I've had many of those in my past, and it's like, why are they even considering my friends?
They're
They're like
not. They're
haters,
not.
undercover haters and
Oh, sure.
frenemies, and
Oh,
it's like
definitely.
trying to not torture you, but bring you down to their
Mhm.
level. It's like, no, no more. So I had to start hanging around with people that I felt like I wanted to align to. I wanted to be like who we wanted to model. Those are the people that I wanted to surround myself with. And I don't really have like a lot of friends. I just
Mm,
have a
yeah.
lot, like a handful of close friends that I've known for a long time that have been
Mhm.
supportive throughout my journey.
Good.
And yeah, so
Good.
it's hard. It was hard at first, but
Yeah.
you'll be much happier that you're like set that boundary, like no more, get out.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's always hard at first, definitely. Everything's hard at first when you start something. Oh my goodness. But it's funny though, because I didn't even realize that I was shedding the people pleasing, but I naturally did. Once I made that major move with my son, I started saying no more. I started saying, no, I'm not going to put up with this. I started having boundaries. It just naturally came. So it was, I didn't really realize it until a lot later.
Right.
Mm.
Now, after writing your book, I mean, because I'm in the process of writing a book,
Oh,
does it take a long time? Because right now it's been 3 months since I even touched it, and I'm just like, oh my
okay.
goodness, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? The thing is, it can vary. It depends on, it took me about a year to write that between the planning and writing the manuscript and getting it edited. It took about a year. It
Yeah.
did. And maybe even a little more than that, actually. So, sometimes books can take a couple months to write. Sometimes it can take a few years. It really all depends on the type of material you're putting in and how much you're putting in there. That all it's quite variable.
Is there a specific chapter in your book that has a lot of significance to you that you'd like to share to the audience?
Oh, well, I do share my story in the beginning. I talk about what echoism is, and I do share my story. I do. I talk about everything that I experienced. Before I get into the tarot, I talk more about what echoism is and how it affected me. And then I just bridge over to tarot. And then I talk about each of the cards and talk about how each of them do relate to people pleasing in some way. And then I go talk about some spreads and talk about the one card pull. So that's basically what it is. So you do learn a lot about pathological people pleasing and you learn about self reflection, even if you don't use the tarot for looking into why you're a people pleaser per se. You can learn about self reflection with it.
Right. And I've noticed back in the day, I used to always say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." That was like
Yeah.
my favorite phrase. I don't
Oh,
even
oh,
say I'm sorry anymore unless I'm genuinely like truly sorry. Like
oh, yeah, me
may have
too.
hurt somebody's
Mhm.
feelings or something. Like, no, I'm sorry about that. But I used to be like sorry about everything. And I remember my mentor was like, "Why are you always saying you're sorry?" I'm like, I don't know. Why am I trying? Goes back to then people pleasing, I think, you know? It's
Yeah,
like
for sure. Yeah, that's
yeah.
another thing. Apologizing all the time, that is also a sign of people pleasing. And I
Right.
do have a small publication. I don't really do too much with it on Medium. It's called The Recovering People Pleaser because I'm really focusing on my tarot stuff, but I've got that there. So I've got some material on there as well.
That is
So,
awesome. Now, is there
yeah.
anything upcoming events, workshops, or any initiatives happening for you in the future?
Well, I am planning some stuff. I am planning some stuff. Now, as far as anything specific, I'm still just sort of mulling it over, still in the brainstorming phase. I may create a program where I will teach people to use tarot for problem solving and decision making because you know what?
Oh,
People struggle with making decisions. And that does sort of tie into people pleasing too. It can. Not always, not always, but that's what, because you know what? Tarot is excellent for decision making. It absolutely is.
yeah. So your guidance there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because that's a whole other animal right there. Because you know what? So many people procrastinate because they can't decide what they want to do. So the tarot can help you make a decision,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And so finally, for those interested actually in exploring tarot for personal growth, what tips or starting points would you go ahead and recommend for them?
So here's the thing. So, okay. I think the first thing you need to do is do some heavy self reflection. Are you a people pleaser? Just be honest with yourself. Are you a people pleaser? If you say yes, okay, let's do some work. Do you feel that there are underlying issues that are causing you? And usually there are. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere. I mean, I think some people are just more naturally inclined to please others, but usually when it comes to echoism, there is trauma. There's trauma there. So that's if you want to start to really look into this and start setting boundaries and start saying no, you got to uncover why you're a people pleaser and you may need to talk to a therapist. So you talk to a therapist if you feel that's necessary, use the cards. Now the thing is if you don't feel like you're really suffering too much within, but you do want to explore a little bit, you can use the cards. That's the thing. If you feel you need a therapist, that's your call. Because if you feel this is something that's a lot more serious, if you've got some underlying trauma there, then you got to talk to somebody like a trauma informed therapist, right?
Right.
Because the cards alone aren't going to help you. In fact, you could even you know use the cards and you may even get a suggestion through that. You got to talk to a therapist.
That's what I was just
That's
gonna say too. Yeah, you
yeah.
can just use the card. Should I talk to a therapist?
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly
was gonna
that
say.
too. Yep.
That's awesome. And now where can people find your book?
I'm on Amazon and I'm also, as I said, on Medium. I've got my book showcase on Medium, Ms. Mir at medium.com. I'm also on Substack, Miriam Reads Tarot at substack.com. And I'm also on X, Miriam Rachel 75. And I'm on Instagram too, Miriam Reads Tarot, but I really haven't done too much with it. So I'm going to have to fix that though. Yeah.
Yeah, well, awesome. Any last thoughts or final words?
Well, all I can say is, you know what? You are worthy. You deserve to have you need to put your needs first. Your needs come first because if you don't put your needs first, you can't help anyone else. You know? You can't. So
100%.
that's really the message I want to bring. You matter, your needs come first, then you can start to help others.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Miriam, for being on my show
Well,
today.
thank you for having me. This was great.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.